Lately, I have been revamping my personal website, and it got me thinking about my personal brand and some of the challenges that I've gone through in order to be able to articulate and express who I am in my work and with what I do. Now, one of those big fears that always plagued me was this fear of being put in a box. This is a simple one, but I think it's one that a lot of us can relate to, especially if you are a polymath or what they call like a multi-potentialite. And so for me, what I had to do was I had to deliberately and consciously create my own box. The reason I had a problem being put in a box is because growing up, a lot of the identities that I carried weren't actually my own. And so I didn't want to be identified with something that really wasn't truly me. But the reason I had to carry those identities was because of other fears. So let's get into those other fears. So another fear was a fear of judgment, a fear of rejection. And I think that was, for me, that was largely rooted in my Pentecostal upbringing, where as a child and as an adolescent, every week I would go to church and I would have these questions. I would have these ideas and beliefs and just uncertainties that I couldn't express because expressing those things meant that I would be judged as someone who was bound for hell and a road of destruction. Now, the childlike, innocent me really couldn't understand how, I could be on a road to destruction for expressing myself and asking questions and trying to reason things through and out. But that was the case. And so that ability to express and reason and question was stifled because I didn't want to go to hell. Hell is no longer a part of my consciousness like that. So now it's a lot easier for me to express without the fear of judgment, but I still find that trigger sometimes of just being afraid of people seeing me or misjudging me a certain way. And that could definitely get in the way of personal brand because you're bound to be judged. But I think the key is to be, comfortable and at one with yourself where that judgment has doesn't have any effect. Another fear that came up a lot or comes up sometimes is a fear of being seen as like self-centered, with sharing your accomplishments. So what that's meant is that I had a friend one time who would always be like, "Yo, man, you've done X, Y, and Z. How come you don't talk about it? How come you don't put these things out here that you've done?" And I used to tell him those things are cool and all, but those aren't the things that I value. And so now that I've accomplished some of the things that I value for myself, that I do want to share, I have to remind myself that not sharing these things is actually me withholding the value that I have to offer. And which goes into the last fear that I'm going to share with y'all today, which was a fear of being seen as needy for attention, right? So when you put yourself out there online, you're asking for attention. And growing up, I had, there were times where looking back, I know that I was just really needy for deep validation. And that made me end up in situations and circumstances which would lead to shame and embarrassment, and, more judgment. And so what I've found though, is that filling my own cup, right, emotionally with whatever validation that I need, which is I've done through being a father and raising a family, it really allows me to kind of keep filling my own jug as I pour into my children and into my wife. they pour right back into me. And so that neediness isn't there like how it used to be when I was, a younger adult, a younger man. But yeah, that neediness is not there. So that fear though of still being seen that way gets in the way of calling for attention. So now my desire for attention isn't to fill a gap or some emotional need. It's because I have something to give. It's because I've filled my own cup. And now I know that there's something there. There's something here that is useful to the world. And so it's in my own best interest to put it out there and to make it known. So these are some of the fears and struggles that I've had to deal with in being able to reach a point where I feel comfortable building a personal brand. And so that's how I got here today. All right. Hopefully you found that useful. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. If this has affected you in any way, I'd be happy to know and talk more about it. Peace.